Good afternoon. I'm Allison DeCourcy, President and CEO of United Community, the largest human services nonprofit in Alexandria, Virginia, across the river from DC. We have a 51-year history of empowering vulnerable children, adults, and families to improve their lives and thrive. In our service area, we see families and even whole communities that are held down by a sort of powerful gravity. It crushes ambition and feeds despair, with lower income, higher unemployment, lower educational achievement, a lack of affordable housing that exacerbates homelessness, and even a lifespan that is 10 years less than the main of our county, which is the third wealthiest county in the nation. We at United Community call that the gravity of poverty. We accept gravity, but we work to defy poverty, because while gravity is inevitable, poverty is not. So defying the gravity of poverty will require our organization to find ways to lift up the poorest among us. That includes new partnerships and collaborations on a scale we've never seen before or attempted before. And that is why I'm thrilled to be a part of this session, Building a Home with a Heart. Whether it's defying the gravity of poverty or creating a community where all families have safety, stability, and housing, a nonprofit community cannot go it alone. Partnerships, collaborations that we've never imagined before must become reality. And today, we are so fortunate to hear about a unique collaboration in the heart of Amazon's Seattle headquarters, supporting their neighbors in immediate need and helping families transition out of homelessness. Joining us are Marty Hartman, Executive Director of Mary's Place, and John Shetler, Vice President of Global Real Estate and Facilities at Amazon. Marty has led Mary's Place since its inception in 1999. She is a strong, innovative, and convincing advocate for women, children, families experiencing homelessness. John leads Amazon's Global Real Estate and Facilities team with a mission to provide a secure, sustainable, and efficient work environment to accommodate Amazon's massive growth. John is also deeply committed to his community. Matter of fact, his leadership has led to Amazon's collaboration with community organizations like Mary's Place, which we are here to learn about more today. So let's go ahead and get this conversation started. John, question to you, and well, actually, welcome to you both. And John, first question to you. Amazon is really the first company to build a permanent shelter in a corporate office building. Tell us what motivated Amazon to engage in such a way, in such a unique way to address homelessness. And also, as you answer that, can you tell us how you told your CEO, Jeff Bezos, about this partnership and project?
Well, hello, Lisa, and hello, everyone else. And I'm glad to be here today because I love to talk about this story. Amazon was building a campus in the heart of downtown Seattle. We had purchased 3.5 blocks of land that we were going to be developing over 3 million square feet on. One of those blocks happened to have an old motel on it. It was built in the 60s, used during the World's Fair in Seattle in 1962, had been used as a motel for years after that, and then more recently as a dormitory for Cornish College of the Arts, one of our neighbors in Seattle. When we purchased the property, Cornish exited the building and was no longer going to use it as a dormitory. We knew that it was going to, we were going to be developing on the land, but it was going to be 2 or 3 years before we were going to do that. We had to go through all of our entitlements, design a building, and before we would ever tear it down. So I was wondering what we were going to do with that old motel. At about that time, the mayor of Seattle had declared a state of emergency on homelessness in Seattle. I happen to know about Mary's Place because a former Amazonian that I had worked with used to volunteer there in the afternoons. I also knew some people that worked on the board of Mary's Place that were always looking for opportunities where Mary's Place could expand, and they often used buildings only for a temporary period of time. So we reached out to Mary's Place. We gave them the idea, what would you think about taking a motel that would be able to house about 200, 250 family members? They were overjoyed with it. We went hard at work to make sure that the building was all ready, fit for purpose. All of the fire life safety systems were ready to go, made sure the carpets were clean, put some fresh paint on the walls. And we gave Mary's Place this opportunity. I remember I wrote Jeff Bezos an email to tell him, not to ask him, but to tell him what we were doing. After all, real estate facilities was part of my responsibility. The money that we were going to spend on Mary's Place, and for the period of time, it was all within my purview of authority. So I didn't ask, I just told him. And Jeff is always, I mean, I've been with the company almost 20 years. He and I have had a longstanding relationship. He responds to my emails in a very timely fashion. And this time he didn't. It was 24 hours, 48, 72. And I thought, oh, geez, this is probably a life or a career limiting move on my behalf. And so I sent him the email again, and I asked his team members, I said, you know if Jeff has seen my email? And they said, oh, yeah, he's seen it. He's opened both of them. And I thought, oh, okay. So a day or two later, it was actually on a weekend, I got all sorts of text messages, emails, and voice messages saying, John, Jeff is trying to reach you. So we got together, and he said, now that we've given the gift of housing to Mary's Place, more people probably know about it than ever, and now's the time to double down. He said, would you help me? I want to give $1 million matching for their upcoming luncheon. And it's a personal gift that I would like to give. And I thought, well, that's a pretty ringing endorsement. So we went ahead and we did that. Mary's Place normally made about $250,000 at their annual luncheon. That year, they raised $1.6 million. And then with Jeff's match, they got $2.6 million. And Mary's Place was off and to the races. A year later, I went to Jeff and said, because of the outpouring support, not only of our employees, but the community, let's make this permanent, because someday we're going to have to tear this building down. And so I explained to Jeff what we could do and how we could actually create a home for Mary's Place within our corporate headquarters. And he said, I love the idea. Let's do it. And the rest is history. So it's been a wonderful partnership with Marty and with Mary's Place. And I'd like to ask Marty if you want to add anything to that story and what it was like the day that we gave you the key.
I do. It is so fun to hear you relive all of those magical life-saving moments. And I will say it's the relationships that we've built together that have really changed lives, and so grateful for our Amazon family in so many ways. But I'll never forget in April of 2017, and some of our Amazon family was there, and we were trying to develop a video to share and showcase a little bit of what was happening in our shelter site, since it had evolved so much over time since we had moved in. And John walked in, and do you remember that? And he had this box, and he said to me, hey, I have a present for you. And I was like, oh my. It's like, but I didn't get you anything. And he's like, no, it's okay, sit down. So we sat down together, and I opened this box, and out I pulled this beautiful brass key. And I was like, this is so awesome. And he's like, we want to give you a home. We want you to be part of the Mary's Place family. We want you to have a forever home for all of these families, so you never have to worry about where you're going to go or how many families you can bring in. We are on this journey with you. And inside the box was a set of plans for this new 8-story building that we were going to design together. It was just a magical day, and it was so incredible to receive that gift. But I think a large part of all of the gifts we received was part of walking on this journey beside John and his team. He expanded the reach to a larger Amazon family that included architects and construction and and really got us connected. And we did deep dives into together to research, to plan, to really elevate the needs of our guests and our staff and what it would take to build a shelter that would really reduce trauma, reduce stress on families, and allow them to be together and focus on reducing their barriers so that they could move to housing as quickly as possible. And so it was an incredible journey, and to learn and to really be able to design a shelter that really honored our guests, that provided the dignity, the safety, the security, and the love that they were all looking for. And then we all planned for this great big grand opening in March of 2020. And what we didn't plan for was a pandemic. And unfortunately, at the start of this pandemic, the impact was great in so many ways, as it was for all of you and in your homes and with your families. We just had a bigger family. And so we reached out to John, and we needed to move in earlier because we were closing smaller shelters. We couldn't sustain them because we had to de-intensify. We had to make room for social distancing, and they were set up in congregate ways. And so we moved in quickly without the fanfare, but with a whole lot of life-saving support. And this new building provided, we didn't know at the time we were designing it, but it provided everything we needed to help, help families remain in shelter. Because in closing those other shelters, we would have had to have returned them to homelessness. And as a result of having this space, we didn't return anyone to homelessness. Instead, we gave them a dignified space with their own bathrooms, with large community areas where there was social distancing, with large kitchen space so that we could feed all of our shelters. It has been truly a life-saving gift that offered each family their own private room. And so our saving grace in the middle of a pandemic is really what happened here and was the true gift.
Well, thank you for that. And I apologize for the technical difficulties I experienced. I had to switch rooms. So I think I've caught up with you. As a nonprofit executive, I think that having shelter in the heart of headquarters is important because it keeps the issue of homelessness top of mind for employees and the surrounding community. So, John, how are Amazon's employees involved in this project? And Marty, how do your families feel about it? What is their experience?
Well, Alison, our employees are involved in a variety of ways. You know, we wanted to bring people into the neighborhood to really illustrate our desire to help and support our neighbors. And we know being downtown is important for families, as so many services and public transportation are in close proximity to our location. Our employees are really and not only our employees, but in the entire community, love volunteering with Mary's Place. And that's one of the things that is so meaningful about this partnership. Prior to COVID, our employees worked with Mary's Place on clothing drives, resume reviews, babysitting, baby supply drives, cooking dinners, you name it, they were there. And during the pandemic, our team have provided support to Mary's Place in other ways. For example, our legal team has donated 20 extra laptops to Mary's Place and are providing pro bono support to Mary's Place residents virtually for families in both this shelter and within our campus, and also for other Mary's Place shelters in our community.
Fabulous.
Yeah, for Mary's Place, it's been a true saving grace to have our Amazon family come to our aid in so many ways. Yes, by volunteering virtually now, which was in person before, tutoring, working with families that English isn't their first language, on resume building. We have the HR team doing mock job interviews. We have basic computer skills. We have tutoring for our kids as they're doing remote learning right on site. The Wi-Fi and the technology in the building allowed us to really scale and take that to where we needed to really be intentional about continuing to develop those relationships, because you can become so isolated when you have lost your home. And so this allows us to continue to make that connection, to bring in the hope, the encouragement, and to reduce the barriers these families are facing as they move into housing. But I will say one of the other amazing gifts we received from the Amazon family is this ability to dive into the greater need in the community. And where we have seen gaps in the system, they have been there to support us as we have begun to bridge those gaps. You know, when we first moved into that hotel, we never knew that there were families sleeping outside of hospitals with children on feeding tubes, waiting for more chemo, waiting for more dialysis, and just having no place to go. Those families had sacrificed everything to get their child's miracle. And so with Amazon, when we moved into that first building, we worked and were able to designate, because of the private funding, designate 5 rooms for what we called Popsicle Place and bring in those medically fragile children, make sure they had an address to get home health care. And we scaled from those 5 rooms in 2016 to now we have 30 rooms for those families with on-site medical care clinic. And it has been our saving grace. So that's just one example of the programs that we've been able to build together to really meet the need of our hometown neighbors.
And these are the models that we just need to emulate. That's fantastic. A lot of our audience is in the DC area or visits DC frequently. I'm sitting 5 miles due south of HQ2 right now. John, we've talked a lot about Seattle. What can you tell us about Amazon's commitment to the community near HQ2?
Sure. Well, we're thrilled to call Arlington our new home, and we've loved getting to know the local community. Our community investments are not one size fits all, so it's important for us to truly dig into the needs in Northern Virginia and DC metro area. Some examples of what we've been done so far include, just this week, we announced a new $9 million donation to various nonprofits across the DC metro region, bringing our total community investment in the area to more than $19 million. Mm-hmm. Of that $9 million, of that $9 million, $3 million was split up among 4 legal service providers so that they could increase their resources and staff manpower to help support families facing eviction issues during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic as the eviction moratoriums come to a close. The additional $6 million went to community health services, advancing racial equity causes, job training, and economic opportunity, and more. Amazon recently donated more than 1 million and nearly 800 Wi-Fi devices to students across Northern Virginia, starting this school year, so that the kids could learn from home. In addition, since the start of COVID-19 pandemic in Amazon's HQ2 region, Amazon donated $1 million to kickstart emergency response efforts, provided thousands of devices to groups supporting students in need, donated in cash and in-kind products to local nonprofits, food banks, paid local restaurants to prepare for delivery of 10,000 lunches and dinners for first responders, frontline healthcare workers, and vulnerable neighbors, and to fund delivery services to provide for more than 50,000 meals to 60,000 pounds of food. As you can see, we're just continuing to do as many things as we possibly can. The needs are going to vary day by day based on whatever is coming up, and I think our organization is ready to stand in and to help out. I'm super proud of what we do in our communities, and I know that we'll be looking to be more involved in the coming area. And I just have to say, stay tuned.
I know that we are at time. I do want to pose one more quick question to you both. Broadly speaking, what suggestions do you have for local businesses, nonprofits, governments, those of us who are listening to you all both talking? How do we work together, perhaps in ways we haven't attempted before, to tackle the challenges that we're facing, that our communities are facing?
Marty, do you want to go first? Or I'd be happy to. I think most importantly, is to be opportunistic. You know, our partnership with Mary's Place grew out of having a vacant building and then the ability to build a new shelter inside of a new office space. Not everyone has a new building at their fingertips, and that's okay. Think about what your company can do and to get uniquely involved and how they can offer needs that are not currently being met, and get creative how you can make it beneficial for your community. We should not all strive to do the same thing, but lean into what you're already good at or what your employees uniquely offer. Build relationships. I can tell you that I personally, as being a longtime supporter and a fan of Mary's Place before Amazon got involved, I've long been impressed with their data-driven approach, their creativity, and their heart. This partnership could not have grown into what it has without this strong baseline relationship. We've worked together a long time to get to this point. We've built trust and respect and the healthy dialogue over the many years, and that's helped us build to this point of being strong partners.
Thank you. I would just add that as a nonprofit, to dream big. And I think that's what we've learned from Amazon, not to dream with just in what you have and to live out of scarcity, but put your needs out there and put your vision out there. Our vision that no child would sleep outside has really helped elevate the need in the community and help others to know how to respond. And that was a large part and contribute to John for teaching us and guiding us along the way and not being afraid to mentor us. So it's those relationships that change lives. It's the only thing that ever has and ever will. So don't be afraid to begin to ask for your needs to be met. It's what we do every day at Mary's Place.
Great. Well, thank you, Marty and John, for all you're doing in your community and inspiring us to do more in ours, to dream big. To the rest of you all, please enjoy the rest of your time here at the conference. Thank you.